What is going on, guys? Matt Material here. I'm going to be discussing today the Chargers' moves they've made so far in free agency, whether it's signing or releasing players who I hope they'll go after in the future, and what I hope will be made of the contracts from these players in the future. So first, I'm going to start off with Jaleel Adai. So I know a lot of you, he's not very popular among the fans. A lot of you don't like him, whether it's because of his poor tackling, or whether you don't like his coverage or his decision making, whatever it is. And I have to agree with you guys. I think it was great to save a lot of money by releasing him before the tampering period started, and I feel we can either replace him with someone in free agency like maybe like a Ha Clinton Dix or someone, or we could even go towards the draft with someone like Nazir Adderley, who could end up falling to us at the 28th overall pick. So I feel this was the right decision that had to be made. I wish the best of luck to him. He's a great player, worked hard, he's a big hitter. I can't stress enough how good of a player he was. It's just, I think it was the right decision for the two parties to go in opposite directions. So after Adai, I'm going to talk about Perryman. So Perryman was re-signed. It's, I think, 2 years and 12.5 million maybe. And I think this is perfect. I wouldn't want anything more than 2 or 3 years due to Perryman's injury history. And I feel it's not overpaying him too much. And the way we went out and got Perryman for such relatively cheap compared to how expensive CJ Mosley was, how expensive Anthony Barr was. I think it was a great decision to stay in-house and re-sign Perriman, and I think that this is really going to pay off in the future because there's a report by someone on Twitter that just showed images of his contract, and basically it's sort of like a one-year prove-it deal. So if it doesn't work out, if he gets hurt, or if he has tremendous amount of talent. It's mainly the thing that concerns most people is his injury history. But if he could stay healthy and he can get out there, I think we'll keep him at least another year, and then if it keeps going good from there on, then we can move forward. But yeah, I think this was a great decision by Chargers organization to keep Perriman, and I think he is essential to fixing our run defense. I'm not sure how good he is in coverage, but I know like his primary duty is as a run stopper as a middle linebacker on our team, and he's the best run stopper I think right now on our roster until we can get a good D tackle, whether it's like a Jerry Tillery in the draft or whether we go after someone like Ndamukong Suh or what have you. But again, this is a great decision by the Chargers. And then the big news today is Thomas Davis. So the Chargers have signed Thomas Davis. The deal this year is going to be 2 years and $10.5 million with $5.25 million guaranteed. And this only has a cap hit of $3.25 million for this year, the 2019 cap. So I think I wasn't expecting this much. This still is relatively cheap, but for a player who's 35 years old, albeit he is a 3-time Pro Bowler, and since 2012 he's played in at least 12 games every single year, I think this is a little too much, but I love the time. 2 years is perfect. 1 or 2 years, nothing more than that because of his age. But yeah, I feel his biggest presence on our team is going to be as a leader with young linebackers like Kaiser White. He could help mentor Denzel Perriman even more a little bit. And I feel he was the Walter Payton Man of the Year a couple years ago. I think he's going to be a tremendous influence in our locker room, especially if someone like Brendan Mebane, who's one of our team captains, gets away from us in free agency this year. Thomas Davis would be an excellent, excellent replacement as a team captain and as a leader for our team. So I think this was a great decision. It also gives you this feeling of more physicalness from Thomas Davis, because he's known as one of the best tacklers in general in the league, and that's something I think is very key. We needed to improve on this year, especially players like Jaleel Adai weren't too strong in tackling. Maybe Casey Hayward, some of those players, but I feel if we can get a dominant force in the middle of the field, if he can be out there the same time as Perriman, those two could be a pretty good combination at not only stopping the run, but just being physical presence out there. So I really like this decision, and I initially wanted the Chargers to go after KJ Wright. He would fit their team, especially because he was with Gus Bradley in Seattle. And the one thing I think made the Chargers, the two things actually I think which made the Chargers go this direction with Thomas Davis is, one, Thomas Davis is unequivocally a better leader. Like, he's by far one of the best leaders in the league. And the other thing is, I think that the Chargers may have been concerned about the price. The Chargers do have around, now with this deal, still around $20 million for this year's cap, and that's not including if they cut Benjamin or if they don't. That's not including re-signing anybody else. But I think this is a great decision. But I feel the one thing that maybe the leader aspect is very important. But I think it might have come down to price, and the leader aspect just pushed Thomas Davis over the top of KJ Wright a little bit, due to the amount of money in the last 2 days that has just been thrown around all over the place to all these defensive players. So I love the decision. I'm looking forward to Thomas Davis in the future. Oh, and by the way, he seems like a great person. I'm looking at all these tweets on Twitter, and all these Carolina fans are talking about how they'll miss him so much, how they're crying, how they're all saying good luck, how it's good to have him with Phillip Rivers. They're telling him to go get a ring with us. I think this is a tremendous opportunity for a player like this towards the end of his career, and I think we're pretty close to making a good deep postseason. I think he could really help us do that. So after this, the last thing I finally want to conclude with is talking about who I think we should re-sign, and just give a list of like 2 or 3 players I think we should target over the next couple days. So as for re-signing, I think the definites, in my opinion at least, as of right now, are Darius Philon and Adrian Phillips. Those two are the only definites that I would re-sign on this team. The one thing the Chargers that might scare the Chargers a little bit maybe is because of how much, although the Chargers used him as linebacker last year, he has played safety too. So although all these safeties have been getting lots and lots of money, they might be getting outbetted by other teams who can offer him more money. That's the one concern with Phillips. I have no concerns about his talent. I have no concerns about his skill. He's a tremendous player. He's risen, undrafted player. He's risen from the bottom, from special teams to safety to linebacker, and he has been a tremendous leader on this team. And I think it would be essential to have him back on our roster next year. And then Philon. So right now, the only 2 defensive tackles on our roster are Ty McGill and Justin Jones. So Justin Jones showed potential. I'm not sure if he's completely ready to be thrust into a starting role right now. I think he would be okay. I'm just not exactly sure. And McGill, I think, is more of a rotational reserve backup kind of good player to have on depth chart, but I'm not. I don't think he could start. So I think, unless the only thing that would make me feel comfortable with not re-signing Philon is if the Chargers go after someone like a Ndamukong Suh or another defensive tackle, what have you. Because I think my preference in the draft would be for them to go offensive line, specifically tackle. Whether it's someone like Dillard or Dalton Risner or whatever it is. I think the Chargers should focus on their defensive holes right now, so that they can work on protecting Phillip Rivers in the draft and maybe shoring up at safety if they don't fix that as well. So, and then I have a couple lists of people I want to bring back, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen. One of it is Rochelle. So Rochelle, this website lists him as a D tackle. I'm pretty sure he played reserve snaps as an end. I could be wrong. But if he's a D tackle, he might be a little undersized. But Rochelle definitely made a huge step forward last year. He's only 24 years old. If you recall, we drafted him a couple years ago, I believe in the 7th round, I think 2 or 3 years ago. He made a huge step forward last year, especially with Bosa being out early. And both him and Nwosu made big, like filled in very well for Bosa. And as good as Ingram was last year, he wasn't at his peak performance as he normally is. So I think he did a tremendous job filling in. Again, I'm not sure if he could be a starter, but I would love to have him back on the team next year. And then the other player I want to mention is Hayes Pollard. So Hayes Pollard, inside linebacker, 27 years old, and I believe we should bring him back. Here's the reason why. It doesn't hurt to have too much depth at linebacker. We learned from this year. We didn't have enough depth, and it forced us to use 7 defensive backs in the playoffs. Kaiser White went down, Jatavis Brown went down, Denzel Perriman went down. All it takes is someone like Thomas Davis, who's getting a little older, to get hurt, and Denzel Perriman to get hurt, and then we're back in the same situation as we were last year. So I think Hayes Pollard is a great depth chart member to be put on the roster. He can start too. I don't think I would, if I was the manager, I don't think I would have him starting, but he can definitely start and fill in for someone if someone's hurt or anything. And yeah, I definitely think we should bring him back. And then some of the more obvious ones, I don't want the Chargers to even think about re-signing Tyrell Williams, because he is by far, there's no one even close, he's by far the best receiver in free agency this year. And because that's true, and the drop-off is so steep after him, teams are going to be forced to pay him an exorbitant amount of money next year. And because there's not much competition, the supply is very low and the demand's high. So although Williams is probably a wide receiver 2, I would say, he's going to get paid like a wide receiver 1. Like a starter. And I think I really don't even want the Chargers to consider bringing him back, because most of their cap this year is going to have to be spent on him if they want to do that. And the other thing that makes me comfortable in saying this is the emergence of Mike Williams. He had a tremendous bounce-back year after that injury-plagued rookie season where he didn't get much snaps really at all, much less receptions. So I think I feel more comfortable with those two, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. And to have someone like Hunter Henry coming back, we still don't know how healthy he's going to be. But having someone like Hunter Henry come back, I feel those 3 options are pretty good in terms of receivers for Phillip Rivers next year. So then finally, I just want to shout out and mention 1 or 2 players I think the Chargers should make a run at in free agency right now. So the first one I want to mention, it might not be the most popular choice, because I know he's old and he's definitely past his prime, but I think we all learned that some players perform differently in the playoffs, and that experience matters. If you watched the playoffs, if you watched the Rams last year, you saw that Ndamukong Suh was a totally different player in the playoffs. Throughout the regular season, people were calling on him to step up, how Aaron Donald's paving the way for him, how he should step up because Donald's getting double teamed, all these other things. And then in the playoffs, he totally balled out. He did great. So I think if they can fix, their defensive front with a big player like Sue, who not only brings valuable pass rush up the middle, which the Chargers have none of right now, but also is a big, huge guy you can stick in the middle and help serve as a run defender. I think would also help our defense tremendously. So that's one player. I know there were also some reports that he was seen at a gas station in Carson today. Some people were mentioning that on Twitter. So I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure if he met with them today. I'm not sure if the Chargers offered him a good deal. I'm not sure. I haven't heard much about it since then. But yeah, I think he would be a tremendous asset to our team, and I think he would help us a lot. And then finally, one of the last couple players I want to talk about. These last couple are more wants than needs. So I'm assuming, again, this might not be a fair assumption, but I'm assuming the Chargers are going to cut Travis Benjamin, and assuming that Jeremy Davis is also a free agent this year, and Artavis Scott is coming back, but he showed really, really, really good flashes of potential in the preseason last year. Again, it's the preseason, but he showed what a percentage of what he could be. So I'm actually very excited for him. I think that also makes it easier to get rid of Benjamin because he's another speedster. He was great. He was great in the return game in the preseason. I think he could be our he and Desmond King could be our return man. So I think that'd be great. So the other players I'm going to mention out, since I know the Chargers like sometimes to snag some players who are already in their division. Like the last couple years, they've got Okung from the Broncos. They've got Virgil Green from the Broncos. I know Telesco kind of likes that because of the little familiarity in the division. And he could probably help out with knowledge on the previous team as well. So the first player I'm going to mention is Chris Conley. So if you remember Chris Conley, he's a receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. And one of the things that separates him from a lot of other receivers, in my opinion, one, he's very underrated, especially on that offense with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. That has two very good stars. And I feel that since he's so underrated, this seems like the perfect Charger free agency acquisition to me, because the Chargers are known for kind of waiting till all the like bigger players go, till all the major money is spent. The one thing I will say though, I don't think this is gonna happen soon. I think you're gonna have to wait to see someone like Tyrell Williams go off the board, because he's kind of like the tone setter in terms of salary and price. But I think after Williams goes off the board, you're gonna see a lot of other receivers starting to get paid based off the contract, modeled off the contract that Williams got. So I would love Chris Conley. You should go check out his combine. He had an insane combine. I think he had like he had a record-setting vertical leap, I'm pretty sure. Like 40-something inches. That was really good. And yeah, I think he would be a tremendous asset on our team. And I'm looking forward to seeing if the Chargers go after him, especially since we have two very strong receivers. But after those two receivers, we're kind of unsure. We're not sure if Gates is coming back. We're not sure if we're getting Jeremy Davis back. We're not sure how Artavis Scott's going to do. We're not sure if Benjamin's getting cut. So there's a lot of uncertainty at the receiver position. I definitely do not want this to be a priority for the Chargers. Again, this is not a need. This is simply a want. I don't want them to spend a first or second or even third round pick on a receiver this year. This is just a want. This is only something to improve them and make them better. I also don't want them to make this a priority in free agency and go out and splurge a ton of money on a player who is just a added player to their team who's not essential but would help out a lot. So I think this is very important to keep in mind. And I look forward to seeing what the Chargers do in free agency this year. So just let me know what you guys think of this video, if you want to see more in the days to come, or what have you, or if you want to just leave comments saying who you think the Chargers should get, what you think their plan should be in free agency or in the draft. And I'll be happy to read your comments and look back and see them. So thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon again. Thank you.